Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the final recap of the Austrian Chess Championship 2026. And yeah, the tournament is over. As you can see, I am back home in the studio and I have good news. I was able to win the final game of the tournament. So I was finally able to break the drawing streak and was able to secure 4th place overall in the event. I will talk a bit more about my general feelings about the event after we have a look at the game. But before we start, I would like to congratulate Dominik Horvath for winning the Austrian Championship again. He also won it last year. And also big congrats to Laurens Bormann, who would have also really deserved to win the event. He shared first, basically, he had the same points like Dominik, but he had the worst tiebreak. But to cheer him up, he did score his first Grandmaster norm, which he absolutely deserved. He really played a great event. And so specifically congrats to those two players. All right, so today I played against Lukas Leisch, who also didn't really have a great event until then. I think now he actually lost the last 3 rounds. I think he lost 2 games before playing against me. And he opened with d4. In general, Lukas is pretty well prepared. He's my age, so we've played quite a lot over the years, specifically in many youth competitions. And yeah, he is generally, I would say, pretty well prepared in the main line, so I was trying to surprise him. But at the same time, also trying to kind of stay principled because it was a morning round and I could not prepare something completely new. So I decided, to stay with the Nimzo, which he already played once in this tournament so far, but then he played against Laurens Bormann. He played the move Bishop d2 here, which I just had a quick look there, what I would do. But in this game, he decided to play Bishop d3. Also, it was not even clear if he would go 1d4. He can also play c4 on the first move or even e4. I played d5 and he went for a3, which is an extremely solid and also very popular line nowadays. The idea is that black should, or mostly black is taking on c3. It's actually not the only move. Black here has a couple of different options. Also bishop e7 going back is possible. And there's also this funny line, taking on c4 and going back bishop d6, which specifically for Ragozin players can be quite interesting because you want to play with knight c6, e5 next. I had this once with white against Wojtaszek, and he completely outplayed me here. So I think this is also a decent option to play for win. I also covered this in my Nimzo Ragozin course, which, by the way, the German version is out already. And as far as I'm aware, the English version will appear beginning of September. So for all of you who have been waiting for a long time, it's almost time to come out. Yeah, eventually I decided not to go for it because there's also this move bishop takes h7, which can be quite forcing, and I did not recall any of the details. So I decided to go for this, and now for the line with c6, which I had a look at a couple of months ago, since I had a pretty painful loss in the Czech League in some e3, a3 line against Joachim Nemeth. You can find the recap of that on my channel as well. And those lines, they can be quite sharp. In the meantime, I also looked quite a bit at all of these things. But the good thing with this system with c6, first of all, what is even the point of c6? It looks like a strange move. The idea is that next I want to go b6, bishop a6, and then whenever white takes on d5, I want to recapture with a c pawn. That's the important idea, because if black would go b6 now, then, okay, white could start with knight d2, but even more importantly, white could take, and then white would get this structure, which might be playable with a computer, but I always hated to play this with black and love to play it with white, because white just has such an easy plan to prepare e4 here, and I think it can become very dangerous for black quickly. So that's the whole point of c6. And now when white takes, whenever white takes, I want to take with the c pawn, keeping a better grip over the center. And what I wanted to say also was that this line specifically is nice because you can also play it against many other move orders, like for example against a3 here, you can now take. And now if you would start with d5, then white could take, and now again we get exactly what we don't want to allow. But instead you could start with c6 here. Pretty funny looking move, but next comes d5 and white doesn't really have anything better than to go for this anyway. So I think it's quite a cool and universal line. You can also play it against the 4 F3 Nimzo, but there are some details there. White has some extra options, but overall, I would highly recommend you to look into this if you like the resulting structures. Lukas played knight e2. This is usually the way White is playing here. It's quite typical. And now b6. He started with f3, bishop a6. So this is the whole plan of black, just to exchange this passive bishop on c8. He took on d5. I took back. The move orders don't really matter here. Like, I could also take here and then take on d5, which would also transpose back to the game. We did it like this. He played queen d3, knight b8 back. And now e4, knight c6. So this is the exact structure which you will get. It reminds me a bit about like some kind of French or Caro-Kann structure. And White, of course, has the majority or the stronger center, but at the same time, Black has a pretty solid position. And Black later on can always play on the queen side. Like knight a5, rook c8 can often come. And White can often play e5 like it happened in the game, but if Black is careful, this attack on the king side should actually not really be crashing through. Again, my apologies for skipping to the end. So here he castled kingside. What I wanted to say was, if he plays bishop g5 here, which may look annoying for a human, here I still remember that there was this important idea. You can actually start with h6, bishop h4. You don't really want to go g5. This would just weaken the kingside. But instead, I think there is this idea, and now knight e5. Cannot take because the queen on d3 is hanging, and otherwise knight g6 will come. And this will unpin the knight on f6, and then White's center can come under attack. I think that Black was doing quite comfortably here in this position. So he castled kingside. And here I played the move queen d7, which I knew that it was one of the moves. I think that the main move in my personal file was the move knight d7. Which I thought was the most solid option to stop bishop g5, but I also remembered that some of the lines here can be quite dry, and of course I wanted to keep as many pieces on the board as possible. Like this, I'm prophylactically aiming against e5 and also against bishop g5, but now the d5 pawn is not protected. So from what I remember, I think there was some a4 knight f4 ideas. Like in the game I was thinking about something like this. And I remember that this was the setup which I analyzed, and then at some point Black could equalize with e5, but honestly I didn't recall anything. And it kind of looked a bit strange entering this without any preparation. I thought that now there could be queen c7, but maybe I can keep this option for the future. Queen d7 looked like a combative move. I knew that queen d7 and h6 were other moves which I looked at, but I thought they were slightly inferior to knight d7 objectively speaking, but as we've seen in this game, it also seems like it's completely playable. Yeah, otherwise if bishop g5 will come, then I think it can be troublesome. Like if rook c8, bishop g5, I don't want to play g5. This would just weaken the king side, and then White can play with e5 followed by f4 later. So if White now goes bishop g5, then I can just retreat knight e8, and I don't think that White achieves anything here. He played a4. If he would go e5 first, then I will just go knight e8, and if f4, then I always want to play f5 here myself, not to allow him to play f5. And something like that also happened in the game. And after a4 here, I played a move which I think is actually quite cool. And to my surprise, the engine says that it's actually a pretty good move. It's the move king h8. The idea is White has just played a4. Let's say I go rook c8 now, then he can play e5, and now I cannot go back because of bishop a3. And then I need to play knight e7, but I don't want to do that. Then now it all looks a bit strange here, and White could now maybe play f4. And the point is, after king h8, if now e5 comes, then I can always go back to g8. And now if f4 comes, then I can also go f5, and the knight actually is quite a nice piece on g8. At least I thought so during the game. And it also seems like that's the case. So he played bishop a3. I think so far so good. Now I played rook fc8. I actually would have preferred to play rook e8 here, but here my issue was that he could play c4. And I thought now I should take here, but then, you know, it's probably still fine for Black, but I didn't want him to get rid of this weakness on c3, because now I also felt like his life would get a bit simpler. So I played rook f8. He played e5 now. Knight g8. That was the whole idea. And now he played f4. And yeah, I have to play f5. Otherwise, he can play f5 himself. After the game, I think I said that knight g3 could be an improvement for him. Because what he would prefer is to have some structure like this without this pawn being on f4. Because now the e4 square is not weak. And maybe this bishop could also get around to f4. Even though here, concretely, it's maybe also not so clear. And even I could maybe play knight a5 here. And yeah, it looks like a completely acceptable position for black, if you ask me. All right, so he played f4. Now f5 needs to be played. What I also liked about the knight being on g8 is that whenever he goes for something like g4, I can always just go knight h6, and I don't see any way for white to break through here. If they go for g5, we'll just keep everything closed and then fully focus on the queen side, where I think that white is in a big trouble here on the queen side, at least long term. So that was the whole idea of having the king on h8 now, because I think I looked at some position where this knight is on e8 instead, and then it can be quite dangerous. But with the knight on h6, I did not really see any problems for me at all. So he took, which I think is also kind of necessary. Maybe the computer will disagree, but it looked logical to me to open up the e-file. I took back with the knight. He played f5. And now played rook e8. Actually, f5 surprised me a little bit. I thought he would go knight g3 and rook e1. But also there, I think black is doing fine. Lukas even said that I could play g6, which I think is also quite interesting. Of course, I'm weakening the dark squares, but this bishop is actually not going anywhere. And I can then go back rook e8, rook c8, and at some point knight a5. So he played f5. I went rook e8. I also didn't really see an issue by going e5 immediately. I just wanted to provoke him to put the knight to g3. Because if I would start with that, then I thought he could have some options like queen h3 and then some g4, g5 without the knight being on g3. Or he could also take and then the knight is on e2 and then it could maybe go to e6 more quickly. So that's why I started with rook e8. And anyway, if he takes on e6, which I thought was an option, but it looks quite nice for black because rook e8 is coming next and this bishop is not doing that much. It's controlling some squares, but also not that much, and I'm pretty strong on the light squares. Yeah, so after knight g3, now I was happy to play e5. He took on e5, which yeah, I also didn't really expect so much in general, because I'm not so sure what I want to do here. Do I want to play e4 next, or do I want to take? But it's also not so clear what else he will do. So it seems kind of logical to take for him as well. I took back with a knight, queen b5, queen c7. I think this surprised him slightly because maybe he thought I would exchange queens. After that, it seems like white can probably defend the position without queens on the board, because also a7 is quite weak. But I'm also not repairing his pawn structure if I go queen c7, and now it looks like white is in some trouble. But after rook a1, now I played a pretty greedy move. I just took the pawn on c3, which gives him a lot of activity. And this was not a great move. After the game, we came to the conclusion that we saw some nice move. What was it again? I see that the engine here is suggesting knight e to g4, which I don't really understand. Maybe he just wants to go into e3, but I didn't consider it that much here. What exactly did we discuss? It was knight c4. We thought that this was quite good. I didn't check this with the computer yet. But we thought that here after bishop c1, which seems kind of forced, then black could go queen c5 check. And if king h1, then I can take and then go knight d6, and now black is winning the pawn on b5. What we weren't so sure is how bad is this position, but it looked quite bad for white, just because the knight on c4 is so strong and the bishop on c1 is quite bad. But on the other hand, it also doesn't look like white is losing either, because bishop g5 and cannot be that bad for white. At least it looks like that to me. still, I think this would have been a better continuation than the game. Maybe also knight eg4, what the engine is saying, but I didn't consider it really in the game, so I won't mention it. I took on c3. I thought, taking a pawn cannot be that bad, but white does get some pretty long-term, nice long-term compensation here. I just played queen d6 now. a5, I think that was good. Exchanging this pawn. And now a6. Originally, I wanted to play knight c6 here. But then my issue was that he can play queen a6. In general, if I can exchange this knight for the bishop, I think it's a huge success for me, because the bishop on d4 is just a really strong piece. But after queen a6, I was calculating the following line. Rook e1, queen b4 with a double attack. But now white can go bishop f2. And that was even continuing a little bit here. Like I thought queen c4. But now even both queen b7 and even queen takes c4, I wasn't sure about both, like how much it actually is. I was looking at it until this point and thought that I probably can keep some practical chances, but it also looks like white is extremely active. Maybe knight e4 could come. And also I was not at all sure about queen b7. I have now achieved that the bishop is not on d4 anymore, but at the same time, my pieces are not perfectly coordinated. And his queen is quite annoying on b7. So I was not entirely sure about this. Also, maybe after I move the rook, he could even perhaps take on a7. I didn't see that in the game, but let's say I go somewhere rook f8. Maybe he could even grab this pawn. It's possible. Yeah, so eventually I decided just to play a move, a6, protecting the pawn, and now knight c6 could be a threat. By the way, after knight c6, if white would take on e8 first, then I thought I can take with the knight, and now queen a6 doesn't work because the queen is protected. So that's why I thought that this line was quite important for white to go for this queen a6 here. Okay, so I played a6, he played queen c3, knight ed7. And now he took on e8, which already came as a slight surprise. I was a little bit scared about rook e6 here. Sacrificing another pawn, but now vacating the f5 square. I'm still not sure if this is actually enough for white. Also, when we were analyzing it, it didn't look entirely clear. But I am kind of paralyzed. I would have probably played rook f8 here. And all of his pieces are pretty strong. Maybe he has some ideas to play h3, g4. But okay, I also have a lot of defenders, so I should not really be in trouble here, I think. But it did seem like kind of an interesting continuation for white, even though it's also not clear how exactly the attack actually continues for white. Taking on e8 might be fine as well, but now I think he definitely needs to keep another pair of rooks on the board. I think rook e1 was a big mistake. He should try rook a1 in my opinion, just to pressure the a6 pawn. And I'm certainly better here, but it's still not the end of the world, I think. So after he exchanges these rooks, the a6 pawn will just be much more difficult to attack for him. Now I played queen f4, attacking the bishop on d4. He played queen a1. Now h5, intending to go h4 next. And bishop takes f6 seems to be the losing blunder. We actually thought that it was already extremely bad for him, because we didn't really see how he can even win the a6 pawn. It seems like knight f1 is still possible. And after queen takes f5, then he can probably take on a6, and then he needs to suffer for quite a bit. But if he can keep this bishop, at least for now, then he could have some defensive chances, because the bishop is quite strong here. But okay, it's also not not entirely easy. I don't think I considered knight f1 at all in this position. But I understood that bishop takes f6 should not be a good move, because now also his king is quite weak. He took on a6 now, and I was actually able to throw away the advantage again here, even though it's completely winning at this point. h4 is still fine, even though I think that queen e3 check first would have been more precise, because then if he goes king h1, then I think I can go knight g4 immediately or so. But you know, h4, I played it almost instantly. It's also good enough. Knight f1. Queen d4 was good. It was not an easy decision because I also thought that queen takes f5 is just gives me excellent winning chances. But it seemed like this should just be crushing, and it also is. But I still need to show some precision. He now played a good defensive idea. Okay, he needs to play h3, otherwise I'm threatening this mate on g1. I played queen f2, which is also good. Now I'm actually threatening queen takes f1, let's say queen d3. This is a threat because I evaluated this pawn endgame as winning for black, because I have king h7. This is the line I was looking at in the game. This, and important in the end I have g5. You still need to see this move in the very end. Otherwise it would be a draw, but now black is winning. Yeah, so that's why he tried f6, which was a great practical idea. And originally I wanted to take with the g-pawn. That was my idea. Then I took with the knight, and fortunately my opponent now played did not defend very well, and I won fairly easily. After g takes f6, I did not see the win, or I did not like, first of all, that I'm kind of weakening my king. What I did like was that I keep the knight on e4, of course. But there was one concrete variation, which went king h2. And if knight g3, which was generally my winning idea, since he cannot take, then it would be checkmate. Also, by the way, if queen c8 check, then I can go king h7, and then I can escape here to h6. But what I was not sure about was after king h2, knight g3, now he can play, let's say he gives a check first, and then he can play knight e3. And the point is, if I take on e3, then it will be stalemate. White can go queen g8 check, and then it's stalemate. I saw this trick, and I'm still not entirely sure how it is winning here. This feedback here says queen f4 check, king g1, and now knight g3. Okay, I did not see that in the game. Now it makes sense because now there are no more stalemate ideas. Yeah, that makes sense. I did not see that, but that was the reason I took back with the knight. And now he played queen d3, and after knight h5, fortunately for me, it's completely over. But he could have played the move queen b5 instead to keep control over this pawn, and also now knight h5 doesn't work because of queen e8 check, and also knight e4 doesn't work. So I still keep great winning chances here, I think, with something like king h7. But yeah, white can still hang on here and try to defend. My church, the bells of my church just started ringing, so I hope you don't hear any of that. Anyway, the recap is almost done anyway. After queen d3, I played knight h5, now again with the threat of queen takes f1 check. And after knight e3, he tried one last trick, which is here that after queen takes e3, it would also be stalemate with queen h7 check. And yeah, fortunately I did not fall for this. Instead I played knight e2, and here he resigned because queen g1 is basically unstoppable. Yeah, of course, a good way to finish the event. I think today's game had some pretty good aspects. I'm quite proud of this move, king h8, or at least the idea. This was not preparation at all. It just came to me in the game, and there were some good moments in this game. In general, a lot of the games in the tournament, I feel like I played pretty good moves, but my opponents did the same, and I just did not pose too many practical problems. Just played really solid, and just didn't take enough risks. I think that is the main reason why I wasn't able to win more games, and of course also lacking the right form, which can happen. And I'm planning to record a video on this in the coming few days, since some of you have been asking on what to do if you're not in a good shape, and just to speak a bit on this topic, I feel like now is a good time to do so. But still, I'm excited for future tournaments, and there were some high notes in many of the games as well. I remained unbeaten, which is also something I guess you can sort of be proud of. And yeah, that was it for the Austrian Championship 2026. Thank you all for watching and for following this event. I hope you have been enjoying those recaps, and we will be back with the recaps for the FIDE Olympiad 2026, which is actually starting in about 3 weeks. Thank you guys, and I will see you soon.